Doctor Who, Season 13, Episode 2, titled Chapter 2, War of the Sontarans. Now, this episode I found to be a really entertaining episode. Not as fantastic as last week's episode, which I thought it was a great way to set up your six-part story and set up your villain and set up the key players and a new companion briefly and get a sense of who he is and with Dan and all that kind of stuff. Well, this episode felt very, okay, we're going back to form a little bit, in a good way. We're going back to, like, yes, we got this six-part story, but at the same time, we want also, in this case, Chris Chibnall, we want to still do the things that Doctor Who is known for doing, and that is going back through time, going to a particular sort of event, which in this case is Sequence of War. We'll meet historical figures. In this case, it's Mary Seacole. And we'll have a sci-fi villain, which in this case is the Sontarans, and we'll just do a very classic Doctor Who story where you have, where you have time has been rewritten, and the Doctor's trying to rewritten the history back again to the history that we know. And what it is simply in the Crimson War. It was a war between 1853 and 1856, and it was a war between the British and the Russians. But what we find out is that the Sontarans have rewritten their history, and it's the British versus the Sontarans. And you basically have the Doctor going for both ends, to the British and to the Sontarans, basically saying, like, are you kidding me? Are you fighting each other? Why are you doing it? Why is this and this? Listen to me, this is not the way. All the Doctor things, of course, you have, like, the commander who's all about Queen and country. I'm all about Queen and country. Then the Doctor does the same thing to the Sontarans and asking, you should stop, just retreat and flee. Stop this battle, stop the bloodshed, because the Sontarans are like, we are there for victory, and you, Doctor, shall not take that place away. And for me, outside of like a really well done, as it's once again on a TV level, BBC level, battle sequence, it's stuff that we kind of have seen before, but it's that whole thing of, here's something so different from last episode. Here's something a little bit of something that you have seen before, a little bit of homeness towards it. But the thing is, because we have seen these types of stories before, it's like, okay, it's entertaining, it's interesting. I'll enjoy it. I have enjoyed the Doctor's story in this episode. But the stuff I have enjoyed the most over, it's the stuff with the opinions. Like Dan's story in this, which is in a way a extension to the Doctor's storyline. And what it is essentially, Dan gets zapped back to his time, and he sees that the world, or at least the UK and Europe, have been controlled and is under the Sontaran Empire. And it's Dan investigating and how much, because last week we found out Dan's a community guy. He loves Liverpool. He's all about the community and us people, and Liverpool as a community of people and who we are. And he's all like, his blood will drip Liverpool in every sense of the word. And that is an extent to this episode where he's just, I'm going to try my very hardest to go on a Sontaran ship and fight off some Sontarans and help the Doctor if there's a possibility of a way to do so. It's a really, I found that more intriguing. I think just because it gets us a little bit more time with Dan solo than, hell, we even have a couple of scenes with his parents, but we get a little bit more time with Dan, because all we had was 2 scenes of himself, 3 scenes, and then he gets kidnapped by the dog. So, and then the rest of the episode got then the rest of episode 1 happened. So it wasn't that, it's kind of just a treat, just character-wise, and give us a sense of more about Dan himself. Yaz's story was mostly the Flux story of a continuing Flux, with continuing what's going on with Swarm and Valor, and here's the thing, like, about those two villains, Swarm and Valor. They're as much as like their designs are threatening, their designs are like shockingly. There's a sense of creepiness, definitely with Swarm, but. And even though they kind of saying very typical Doctor Who villain lines, they're pretty well, like, their presence, like when they show up and then he's killing off these like these people who are like in their sleeps or trapped in this of ice, and yes, he's like, stop doing that, you know what you're doing. He's like, don't worry. Don't worry, you'll be next after I finish. Like, don't worry, I'll get to you in time. And I'm like, God, there's a sense of threat, there's a sense of danger. It's a really well, like, these villains are there, even though maybe they're not fleshed out, like, character-wise, their presence enough gives you that sense of, like, oh shit. Outside of them getting turned to ash, there's a sense of oh shitness anytime they walk in. It's a really, they really well put out villains, and we get a little bit more about with the Flux story, and maybe a sense a little bit of why the TARDIS is acting in such a weird way right now. It's like, here's the thing, I think I'm that guy who's like, okay, the Sontaran thing, heavy kicking into, but with the main story itself, I really was most intrigued when the most intriguingness was with Flux, with Swarm, where we're with the main storyline. And it could be quite interesting, what is Flux? Because how did they survive? Did I miss a piece of dialogue? How did the Doctor, Dan, and Yas survived last episode? Is it time jumping? Is it this? Is it that? It could be. We got questions. We have more questions going on with this episode, and then we got more of the Timeless Child stuff, and the Joe Martin Doctor stuff there, and we got 4 more episodes to go. Hell, 8. About 7 more episodes if you want to include the 3 specials. So it's interesting, how do we get these stories wrapped up? How do we end up in a secondary inclusion? Because I know that's a big concern for some people, is having this big story, but we still got answers. We still have questions for all the other stuff. So with Timeless Child and what is Joe Martin's Doctor and blah 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 blah. It's a good episode, but now it feels like episode 3 onwards, or episode 3 is going to be like, okay, we're going to hit stories, we're going to hit the story stuff, and it's going to be dealing with the Cybermen on the planet Time.